Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It's me, the Paradox, sitting in my closet once again, voicing over another Minecraft clip on my own world. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Today I'm going to be telling you all a story, probably the most interesting story of all of the things that happened to me while I was in Madrid, while I was living in Madrid. So, for some background to this, I lived in a part of town called Puente de Vallecas, which is not definitely not a rich neighborhood. It's definitely a working neighborhood. Generally speaking, working families, generally speaking, individuals who are not making a very high income. Now, my apartment was right across the street from a bar, and being 25 at the time, I thought that it would be a good time to establish a nice little regular spot after I finished my job during the day. And so I started visiting this place. It seemed like a really nice place. It was a family establishment, kids running around, definitely just like a family kind of restaurant bar kind of feeling. They served food as well, but uh, not a lot of food. It was mainly just kind of things to nibble on. But one day I was sitting outside of the bar. I was enjoying myself, drinking a beer, watching some YouTube videos, just chilling, relaxing. And I noticed a group of guys around my age sit down at a table near me. And I was kind of keen on making friends at this point, and I wanted to introduce myself. So I went over and I said, "Hello, guys. How are you doing?" I talked to everybody. Um, and at first they seemed like good guys for the most part. They introduced themselves to me. They started talking to me. Came up that I was an English teacher. They wanted me to teach them English. That's not that abnormal. Um, but as I sat there, the conversation kind of shifted, and I kind of moved off to the peripheries of the group. I wasn't really so much in the middle of the conversation anymore. And I noticed that they were talking about really large quantities of money, like 30, 40,000 euros, kind of quantities of money, which is incredible because, that's about how much a doctor makes in a year over there. So it was really, you were lucky if you were making over $1,000, 1,000 euros a month. So, I got a little bit wary of the situation, and I was listening, um, and they asked me because of something that I had in my hand. They were asking me how I had gotten a hold of what I had. It was not anything crazy or anything like that, quite an innocent little thing. But they were asking how I got it, and I told them where I had gotten it. It was in Atocha, which is a fairly populated area. Lots of different things that you can get there. One of the only Thai stores that you can get fish sauce at in the entirety of Madrid. So if you happen to be in Madrid and you're itching for some fish sauce, that's where you get it. Um, but yes, so they were asking me how much I'd paid and things like that, and I told them I'd paid $7 for what I had. They were telling me that that was a little too expensive, and they told me that if I went down the street and knocked on a certain door, I would be able to find a better deal for $5 for the same thing, or for anything, is what they were saying. For any drug that one could possibly desire, they had it there. If you wanted it, they had it. That obviously was a little bit interesting. It was nothing I had never seen before. I've been around Kansas City one or two times, and I wasn't necessarily scared of the fact that they might be drug dealers. That's not really a scary thing, right? Um, but as the conversation went on, they went on to tell me that they also owned some strip clubs, some places that you could go to, and as they said it, if you want to flirt, you can flirt. If you want to be a little bit more involved, you can be a little bit more involved. If you want to just talk, you can just talk. It was a very strange kind of way of describing a strip club, but it kind of sounded a little bit more like a brothel than a strip club, if I had to be completely honest. That kind of thing has never really been interesting to me, and I actually, I mentioned to them that, a lot of people might consider that to be a form of I won't say the word because of the YouTube algorithm, but a form of non-consensual non-consensual contact. You might say that might be a form of that. They of course found that ridiculous, and they told me that they pay their women very well. They pay them $30,000 a month, and they go off to Sicily, they said, and they just spend all their money, and they could be putting it into businesses or la la la, but they don't, and they come back and they ask for more money, and they just spend it all, and they this is what they like. So that was obviously a concerning kind of red flag. Kind of sounded like they were saying that they were pimps. As time went on, one of them, who I had seen there before with a young, pretty girl and a little 6-year-old boy, who I assume had been his wife and son, I had seen them there at the bar, all together with a little dog. Previous times, I'd never really talked to them, but I'd seen them, and I was just kind of I was as he went into what he was saying here. It was really mind blowing. It was really unbelievable. He told me that he had a lover, and that his wife, she knew about it and it was okay with her and blah blah blah. And he had a lover that he would take with him to Ireland. And when they were in Ireland, he told me that he would book appointments for her with gentlemen who were lonely, and they would do all sorts of undescribable things. And he said that he would watch on a camera, and he would make sure that she was safe, and he would enforce like the time limit. And that's when I realized, ladies and gentlemen, that is when I realized that I was talking to a group of literal sex traffickers. I was terrified. I had no idea what to do. I'd never been in a situation like this before, where I was talking to a group of people that were so vile, so evil. Um, so I obviously didn't want to scare them. So I finished my beer at a somewhat decent pace. I didn't shut up all the way. I wasn't making conversation with them, but I mean, I was there, and I went inside. And I asked the bartender. I asked her if she knew who these people were outside what they were, what their deal was. And she told me not to worry, that they were paying customers and that they weren't going to do me any harm, and all was well. Which was an answer to my question. It kind of sounded like she knew what I was talking about, and I was kind of shocked. So I paid my bill at that point, and I started heading back to my apartment when one of them called out to me, "Hey, hey, do you support Donald Trump?" To which I replied, "No, I do not support Donald Trump." And they, ironically enough, started talking about how much they loved Donald Trump, and how Donald Trump was a fantastic president, and la la la, and how they wish that he would come over to Spain. And I was so blown away by that. I was so blown away by that, because these gentlemen were, all of them were half Moroccan. All of them were immigrants. And if Donald Trump had had anything to say about these guys, these sex trafficking immigrants, I don't think it would be very good, if if I had to guess. And you know what? I think that there's not a lot of things I agree with him on, but if I had to agree with him on something, it would probably be his stance on sex trafficking immigrants. But, you know, that's what it was. And I saw them around as I would be walking to work and things like that. I would see them walking around with their wives and with their kids, and they would wave at me and I'd wave back. Um, and it bothered me. It did. It bothered me, because I just saw these literal evil men walking around, and the community that I was attempting to become a part of. And so part of me was definitely tempted to go to the police and to report what I had heard, tell them about the drug den, tell them about these strip clubs, tell them about these ladies that were potentially being taken advantage of. Um, but after consulting with my uncles there, they said that I would probably end up in the trunk of a car in the desert if I decided to do that. So I took the cowardly way out. I didn't report it, but I still think about it. I definitely do still think about it. And like, yeah, I mean, like a lot of stories that you hear on YouTube now at this point are Reddit stories, in a way of saying it, or another way of saying it, lies. But this is a 100% true story, and I mean, there's no huge and everyone clapped moment or anything like that. There's no definitive end to it, even really. I just, you know, I just tried to mind my own business around them, and you know, they're probably still up to what they were up to, and it's kind of a it's an unfortunate thing. It's definitely a fully unfortunate thing. Um, but yeah, what would you guys have done in that situation? Would you have gone to the police? Would you have punched them in the mouth right then and there? Uh, maybe you're more brave than I am. But yeah, let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed this fun little story. Please do like, subscribe, comment, any of those things, or even all three. I hope you guys enjoyed and have a wonderful day.